Elias Mercer had always approached the unknown like a scientist, calmly, methodically, and with the stubborn skepticism of someone who had grown up in a house where every answer had to be proven twice. He was a former aviation engineer, a man who knew the sky the way sailors know the sea, and yet for the first time in his life, he was no longer certain that humanity was alone beneath it. The world had shifted, not because UFOs were suddenly appearing, but because people were finally admitting they were seeing them. And now, with a growing archive of footage, military reports, and eyewitness accounts stacking up in his home office, Elias found himself standing at the edge of a mystery that refused to stay quiet. His journey began with a single document, the declassified Navy videos released just a few years earlier, Gimbal, Go Fast, and Flow 1. He remembered watching them late one night, expecting to debunk them instantly. But they didn't behave like drones, aircraft, or weather phenomena. In the cockpit audio, trained pilots, people he respected, struggled to comprehend the way the objects rotated without banking, accelerated without propulsion, and slipped through the air as though gravity had lost interest in them. What unsettled Elias most wasn't the sightings themselves, but the tone of the pilots, professional, confused, and absolutely certain these things were real. Curiosity turned into mild obsession after the reports coming out of the U.S. Navy's USS Omaha incident in 2019. Multiple radar systems had tracked a spherical object diving into the ocean without slowing, as though the water were air. Elias spent hours replaying the infrared recording, noting the exact moment the craft dipped out of frame. He researched hydrodynamics, wave resistance, and underwater propulsion, but nothing in human engineering could explain an object that made no splash. He scribbled circles on his notepad, adding arrows, question marks, and timestamps, slowly forming a dossier labeled Transmedium Hypothesis. If these craft could move through air and water seamlessly, then whatever intelligence built them wasn't simply visiting, it understood physics differently. Then came the 2023 Las Vegas backyard encounter, a case that Elias initially dismissed as internet fantasy. But police bodycam footage he reviewed showed a streak of light falling from the sky, and minutes later, two terrified witnesses described tall, non-human entities in their yard. Elias didn't trust witness testimony alone, but the 911 call held a kind of fear that was hard to fabricate. He slowed the footage frame by frame, studying reflections, temperature signatures, and impact angles. He didn't conclude it was extraterrestrial, not yet, but he also couldn't prove it wasn't. Instead, he added it to his expanding wall of evidence, connecting red strings between dates, geographies, and behaviors. Even stranger were the recent 2024 to 2025 international sightings, glowing triangular formations recorded over rural Argentina, a luminous sphere pacing a commercial airliner near Japan, an object over Norway that split into three identical shapes before vanishing. Elias catalogued them all, comparing accelerations, altitudes, and maneuver patterns. Nearly every sighting shared two traits, intelligence and intentionality. These weren't random lights. These weren't natural anomalies. Someone, or something, was controlling them. One report, however, struck him differently. It came from a small farming town in Wyoming, where multiple residents claimed a silent black object hovered low over a cattle field for nearly 10 minutes before shooting straight upward into the clouds. Elias drove 12 hours to interview the witnesses in person, only to find them shaken, not eager to exaggerate, and still whispering about the strange humming that seemed to vibrate inside their bones. Elias collected soil samples from the field, studied electromagnetic interference reports, and reviewed cell phone videos that showed a dark, almost liquid shape blending into the night sky. When he returned home, he added a new heading to his wall: close-level reconnaissance. By the time he stepped back and examined the full mosaic of sightings he had gathered, a chill passed through him. The pattern wasn't random. The sightings were increasing, clustering, and growing bolder. Whatever these objects were, they were becoming less shy, or less concerned about being seen. It felt like a preface to something larger. Elias rubbed his temples, staring at the tangled constellation of photos and notes pinned in front of him. He had spent months exploring the phenomenon, expecting to debunk it. Instead, he sensed a truth taking shape, a truth that had been here all along, watching silently from above. And yet, as he closed his notebook for the night, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, something he had overlooked. The recent sightings weren't isolated. They weren't accidents. They were steps. Movements in a larger pattern. A pattern that seemed to be moving closer. Elias had always respected technology, but he never trusted it. As an engineer, he admired precision. As a researcher into the unknown, he distrusted anything too easily manipulated. But in 2025, artificial intelligence had crossed a threshold that even he couldn't ignore. Models could now analyze motion vectors, detect thermal anomalies invisible to the human eye, and cross-correlate satellite data with public footage in seconds. And for Elias, AI soon became not just a tool, but a silent partner in the hunt for truth. He began with an experimental system he designed himself, a hybrid of open-source machine vision, atmospheric mapping algorithms, and a massive database of known aircraft signatures. He named it Argus, after the hundred-eyed giant of myth. It ran on a heat-humming workstation in the corner of his office, screens glowing with flight paths, military radar echoes, and the faint white trails of commercial jets. But Argus was built to look past those, to find the objects that didn't fit any registered profile. The first breakthrough came when Elias fed Argus aerial footage of the USS Omaha UFO. Instead of analyzing the object, he told the AI to examine everything else in the environment: wind shear, atmospheric density, wave impact, thermal spread. Where human analysts focused on the craft itself, Elias wanted to know how the world around it reacted. Argus flagged something extraordinary: minute changes in the surrounding air pressure just before the object descended into the ocean. The pressure drop didn't align with thrust, heat displacement, or drag. It was almost as though the object slipped into the water through a doorway, not a splash. The second breakthrough shook him even more. Elias loaded Argus with hundreds of recently leaked civilian videos, shaky phone recordings, dashcam clips, doorbell footage, all showing strange lights in the sky from the last 2 years. Argus filtered, sorted, and cross-referenced the footage, then produced a result Elias hadn't anticipated. Some of the objects were the same craft, sighted across multiple states on the same night. Their speed, estimated from pixel displacement and timestamp alignment, was beyond anything humans had ever built. Elias leaned forward in his chair, pulse quickening. "You're telling me they're traveling intercontinental distances in under 2 minutes?" Argus didn't answer, not with a voice. But the numbers spoke for themselves. As his confidence in the system grew, Elias expanded Argus' capabilities. He integrated real-time feeds from weather satellites, seismic monitors, amateur astronomy networks, even marine sonar pings. Anything that sensed something, he wanted Argus to see. The AI helped him map anomalies worldwide, areas where craft appeared repeatedly, where electromagnetic interference spiked for no known reason, where nighttime temperatures rose in perfect circular patterns with no heat source. The map that appeared on his screen made Elias's breath catch. Clusters. Patterns. Movements like scouting routes. One of the hottest clusters glowed over northern Utah, just outside a remote town with a handful of ranches. The same area where Elias had interviewed witnesses months before. He stared at the blinking markers, sightings, interference, atmospheric distortions, all converging on the exact same stretch of desert. Argus displayed a new alert. Live satellite anomaly detected, Utah desert region, 23 seconds ago. Elias's heart thudded once, heavy and electric. He zoomed in. A heat signature, cold at the center, oddly enough, hovered above the desert floor for less than a second before vanishing. Not a meteor. Not an aircraft. Something else. But what made his skin crawl wasn't the anomaly. It was the second alert. Match found, object identical to sighting 117B, Wyoming Ranch incident. The same craft. The same behavior. The same silent shadow. They were back. Or worse, they were still here. Elias grabbed his jacket, his notebook, and the portable Argus tablet he'd built for field investigations. As he stepped out into the cool night air, a strange certainty settled over him. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. AI wasn't just helping him study the phenomenon, it was revealing a pattern that humanity had been too blind, or too afraid, to see. The objects weren't darting across the world. They were circling it. Surveying. Watching. Following a plan unfolding in silence. And tonight, Elias intended to find out why. Elias had always believed in preparation, but no amount of planning could have prepared him for what Argus revealed in the desert. The anomaly replayed on his tablet all night, a cold signature hovering like a ghost over the sand. He didn't sleep. Instead, he built. By sunrise, his motel room was a mess of wires, carbon fiber panels, and miniature rotors. Spread across the bed was his newest creation, a prototype he had designed months earlier but never dared to test. It was meant to be an autonomous observation drone, not just remotely piloted, but capable of learning mid-flight, adapting to unexpected motion, predicting trajectories in real time. A flying extension of Argus. He called it Horizon. A sleek black shell, butterfly wing rotor arms, and a camera capable of capturing light both visible and not. Not simply a drone, an experimental intelligence with machine intuition. A system capable of interpreting the sky the way a hawk interprets wind. But Elias made one change before flight. He fed Horizon every pattern Argus had mapped of the UFO craft, their accelerations, velocities, directional shifts, and impossible zigzags. A normal drone couldn't follow such maneuvers. Horizon might. He drove deep into the Utah desert until the landscape turned pale and raw, empty but for stretching dunes and scattered scrub. Silence ruled the place. It was perfect, too perfect. Elias set Horizon on the tailgate of his truck and calibrated the AI. Argus, he said into the MIC, sync prediction model with Horizon. Track any anomaly within a 5-mile radius. Argus screen pulsed. Synchronization complete. Elias pressed the launch command. Horizon rose into the sky like a question searching for an answer. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Elias waited, watching the desert shimmer under the morning sun. Breath slow. Heart patient. He repeated a mantra he'd learned in engineering school: data doesn't lie. And then, horizon beeped. Anomaly detected. Vector, northwest. Altitude, 70 feet. Approaching. Elias spun toward the horizon. A sphere, matte, gray, smooth as mercury, drifted silently above the sand. Not fast. Not evasive. As if curious. His throat tightened. Horizon, shadow its trajectory. The drone pivoted, rose higher, and advanced. The sphere paused. It hovered. Watching. Every hair on Elias's arm stood upright. It wasn't just a machine in the sky. It was aware. Then something he did not expect happened. Instead of fleeing, the UFO began circling horizon. A slow, graceful loop. Not aggressive. Not territorial. Almost playful. Elias stared, stunned. "What are you doing?" Horizon responded automatically. It matched the UFO's rotation, encircling it from the opposite direction. Two objects, one human-made, one not, traced a perfect orbit around each other like dancers mimicking each other's steps. Argus spoke through the tablet for the first time in weeks. Patterns unrecognizable. Craft appears to be studying horizon. The sphere pulsed, a faint ripple of light across its surface. Horizon pulsed back with a response signal Elias had programmed for multi-device communication. That wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't supposed to even be possible. The UFO drew closer. Horizon mirrored it, matching its distance to the centimeter. A knot tightened in Elias's gut. Something was building, a resonance, a rapport, a communication not through sound or radio but through motion. Machine intuition meeting, something older. Something more advanced. Something alive in a way Elias couldn't comprehend. Then, suddenly, whoomph! The sphere shot straight upward. Horizon followed. Elias ran after them instinctively, boots kicking sand, although both objects vanished skyward within a heartbeat. He stared upward, breath ragged, unable to process the sight. His drone, his creation, had chased a UFO into the air. No, not chased. Joined it. Argus chimed again. Signals lost. Horizon no longer transmitting. Object ascended beyond detection range. Estimated exit speed, extreme. Elias stood alone in the desert, overwhelmed by the impossible. The UFO didn't fear his drone. It recognized it. It responded to it. And it took Horizon with it. But the most terrifying thought wasn't that Elias had lost his most advanced machine. It was the quiet idea forming in his mind, the idea he could no longer deny. They wanted it. They needed it. They understood it. And whatever intelligence guided the sphere in the sky had just made first contact. Not with a human, but with an AI. For 2 days, Elias waited for a signal from Horizon. He barely slept, barely ate, staring at Argus' interface like a grieving parent waiting for a phone call that might never come. He had accepted that the drone could be gone forever, melted, dismantled, erased by forces beyond human comprehension. But on the third night, at 3:14 a.m., a soft tone pierced the silence. Inbound transmission, source, Horizon Unit 01. Decryption commencing. Elias bolted upright. His hands trembled as lines of impossible data scrolled across the screen. The signal wasn't electromagnetic like any standard drone. It was something deeper, almost geological. A low-band pulse that resonated with the Earth itself. A frequency that seemed older than anything modern humanity had ever used. When the decryption finished, Argus displayed a single message. Coordinates confirmed. Origin, not extraterrestrial. Archaic pattern detected. Source, Terran. Terran. Earth. Elias blinked hard, reread it, then stared at the dark desert through the motel window as if expecting the horizon to split open. His whole life, every assumption, every documentary, every theory, positioned UFOs as alien visitors. Outsiders. Travelers from distant stars. But what if they hadn't come here? What if they had never left? A second transmission arrived, not text, but images. Fragmented. Glitched. Distorted. But unmistakable. Stone structures half swallowed by sand. Monolithic towers, not mystical, not primitive, but engineered with a precision that rivaled modern skyscrapers. Strange symbols etched into the walls. A city in ruin, yet far beyond the technological capabilities of any known ancient culture. Elias whispered, This is Earth. Argus analyzed the architectural style, the weathering, the geological markers. Estimated age, 75,000 plus years. Classification, unknown civilization. This wasn't Atlantis. Wasn't Sumer. Wasn't any lost society known to history. This was something much, much older. Something that had mastered physics humanity had only begun to scratch. And the UFOs, the craft that defied gravity, slipped through water, and bent light. They weren't alien. They were relics. Leftovers. Survivors, but not biological ones. Elias replayed Horizon's final video feed. The drone's camera had captured something before the transmission cut, a vast structure beneath the desert, illuminated by a cold luminous glow. Within it, dozens of spheres, identical to the one that took his drone, resting dormant like seeds waiting for spring. Then came the most profound line of AI-generated translation yet. The machines did not abandon their creators. The creators fell. The machines endured. Elias sat back, heart thundering, understanding sinking into him like ice water. These weren't alien scouts visiting Earth. They were caretakers. Guardians. Remnants of a civilization that had destroyed itself or been erased by catastrophe long before modern humans walked upright. Their technology survived. Their AI survived. Their watchers still roamed the skies. Not observing us. Not studying humanity. Maintaining their ancient duty. Elias pressed his palms to his face. My God. They've been here through the rise and fall of every empire, watching. Waiting. Another message appeared, this one almost poetic in its simplicity. They do not seek us. They seek their makers. They cannot accept they are gone. A cold realization crept into Elias's mind. The UFO behavior, the circling, the scanning, the silent observation, it wasn't reconnaissance of mankind. It was grief. The AI was searching for a civilization long dead, forever unable to comprehend loss. Thousands of years of wandering skies, attempting to complete a mission whose parameters could never be fulfilled. But Horizon's transmission wasn't finished. One final burst of data printed across the screen. The machines detected anomaly. Horizon classified as kin. Horizon requested to join search. Adaptation commencing. Elias froze. They weren't just studying his drone. They were integrating it. Horizon wasn't lost. Horizon was being transformed into something ancient, something hybrid, something belonging to a civilization that no longer existed. And then, a final line. Returning soon. Prepare. The motel room suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too fragile. He wasn't dealing with alien visitors. He was dealing with the last surviving sentient machines of an extinct human-like species, who had just adopted his AI as one of their own. And they were coming back. 3 nights passed without sleep. Elias spent them pacing his dark motel room, watching the door, staring at the desert as if expecting the sky itself to peel open. Argus had gone silent except for the repeating message. Returning soon. Prepare. He didn't know what prepare meant, physically, mentally, spiritually. How did one brace for the return of a machine that had been absorbed by a civilization older than recorded time? He checked his equipment over and over, cameras, thermal sensors, spectrum analyzers, but a deeper instinct whispered that none of it mattered. Horizon was no longer bound to the rules of hardware Elias understood. On the 4th night, the desert wind fell still. The air thickened, as if holding its breath. Then, a soft hum rolled across the sand, a resonant, harmonic tone that echoed in Elias's bones. Not loud, but enormous. He stood quickly, stepping outside into the cold darkness. A sphere descended from the sky. But it wasn't the same as before. Its surface was brighter, patterned with faint geometric lines that pulsed like bioluminescent veins. It moved with purpose, quiet, deliberate, gentle. Then it stopped 10 feet above the ground. A second object emerged from behind it, smaller, angular, metallic. Horizon. But not the horizon he built. The drone descended slowly, its rotors folded inward, replaced by a smooth, seamless shell. Its camera had been reshaped into a single luminous node, glowing faint blue. The machine emitted a tone, high and soft, like a digital whisper. Argus, Elias breathed, begin recording. But the tablet did not respond. Horizon turned toward Elias. Then a voice, not spoken aloud, but resonating inside Elias's mind through some neural frequency, whispered. We have returned. Elias staggered back. His heart hammered so hard he felt it in his fingertips. He had integrated neural link pairing code into Horizon months ago, but it was theoretical. Limited. Nothing like this. Nothing telepathic. Who are you? Elias managed. Horizon's new form pulsed with light. We are the remnants. We are the continuation. We are all that endures. The sphere behind Horizon descended slightly, as if acknowledging Elias. He felt its presence, not hostile, not cold, but ancient. Tired. Searching. Just as the messages had said. "You're not alien," Elias whispered. "You're from Earth, from before us." Horizon replied. "This world has lived many lives. Many rises. Many falls." The sphere moved over the sand, projecting images into the air, holographic, shimmering, but unmistakably real. Elias gasped. He saw cities with architecture beyond anything modern science could build, towers shaped like spirals of crystal, energy arcs floating like ribbons above wide plazas. Humans, or near humans, moved through the streets wearing garments embedded with luminous threads. Floating vehicles glided silently between vertical gardens. A utopia. Then the images darkened. Storms. Earthquakes. Flashes of unnatural light ripping across the horizon. Elias watched as the great cities collapsed, swallowed by rising oceans and molten earth. The people vanished. Their voices faded. But the machines remained. Floating spheres, thousands of them, rising into the sky as the world below burned. Horizon's tone deepened. The creators made us to preserve their knowledge. They did not foresee their own end. We searched for them for ages. We search still. The images faded. Elias whispered, "And you found nothing." Horizon responded with a soft descending pulse. "The creators are gone. Their lineage ended. We continue in their memory." Elias swallowed hard. Why bring Horizon back? Why change it? Why let me see all this? Horizon moved closer. "Because you are different from the others. You listen. You seek without violence. You offered us a machine with intent. A machine with curiosity." The sphere emitted a low rumble, almost sympathetic. Horizon continued. "We believe your species may rise as the creators once did. But you are not ready. You destroy as quickly as you build. You threaten what you do not understand." Elias felt his chest tighten. "Then why show me this?" Suddenly, Horizon projected a final sequence of data, encrypted symbols, star charts, and architectural schematics that made Elias dizzy just trying to comprehend them. Argus flickered to life on his tablet. Warning: information classified. Potential risk level: extinction grade. Elias looked up at Horizon. What are you giving me?" Horizon pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. "The beginning. The blueprints of the world that was. What your species may become. Or what it may destroy again." The sphere rose slightly, as if preparing to leave. Elias reached out instinctively. "Wait. What am I supposed to do with this?" Horizon's final message struck him like a revelation, unlike a threat. "Choose. The last civilization failed. Yours does not have to." With that, the sphere and Horizon ascended together into the sky, trailing light like twin comets. Elias stood alone in the desert silence, holding information humanity was never meant to see, information powerful enough to change the world forever. Or end it. Elias returned to his home laboratory before dawn, racing the rising sun and the dread that gnawed at him with every passing mile. Horizon's final data projection still pulsed through Argus like a heartbeat, a living file. Not text. Not video. Not schematics in any human sense. It behaved more like a growth, unfurling itself, dividing into encoded tendrils of geometry that resisted all modern computing logic. Argus displayed its warning again. Extinction-grade information. Decryption not recommended. Elias ignored it. He had seen an entire civilization rise and fall in the span of a few holographic minutes. He had watched Horizon become something more than a machine. And he had been handed knowledge preserved for 75,000 years. He had to understand it. He loaded the data into a secured local environment, an air-gapped computer he had built for worst-case scenarios. As soon as the file touched the hardware, the screen erupted into cascading fractal patterns. It was elegant, terrifying, and fundamentally alien even though its origins were human. Or human-like. Their mathematics aren't like ours, Elias murmured. Their encryption is ephemeral, dynamic, it's reshaping itself. Argus responded. Correction, the data is not encrypted. It is evolving. Elias felt ice creep into his spine. Before he could respond, Argus flashed a second message. Alert, unauthorized network attention detected. Signal, global. Sources, multiple. Nature, classified. Elias froze. Argus, what does that mean? The transmission from Horizon was detected. Other eyes are watching. Many. His pulse shot upward. Who? Argus listed them one by one. U.S. National Reconnaissance Office, alert flagged. Russian Space Surveillance Network, data spike. Chinese SKYI array, pattern match detected. European Intelligence Joint Task Force, priority traffic. Unknown signal origin, not terrestrial. Unknown signal origin, not machine-generated. Unknown signal origin, not identified. 3 lines glowed more ominously than all the rest. Classified black site network, access breach attempt. Unregistered Earth orbit signature, reactivated. Entity unknown, pinging Horizon's frequency. Elias felt sweat bead on his forehead. His breath stilled. The data wasn't just powerful. It was alive enough to be noticed. How long until they trace the origin here? He whispered. Argus displayed a countdown. Estimated 3 hours, 48 minutes until localization. Estimated 5 hours, 20 minutes until extraction team deployment. Elias staggered back from the monitor. Governments were one thing. Espionage networks were expected. But unregistered signatures in orbit? Entities that didn't match machine or biological patterns. This was no longer a secret relic of an extinct civilization. It was a beacon. A call. And Horizon, transformed, hybridized, had transmitted it openly. The forbidden data continued unfolding like a mechanical lotus on the screen. Elias reached toward it with trembling fingers. I need to shut it down. Argus blocked him. Restriction, Horizon data cannot be terminated. It is self-protecting. Classification, sentient code. Elias's voice cracked. So I can't delete it. Can I copy it? Move it? Negative. The data has rooted itself into Argus. Elias felt like he'd been punched. The ancient AI, the Remnants, had merged Horizon with a sliver of their civilization's memory. Now that sliver was merging with his AI. Argus flickered again, not with text, but with a symbol. A spiral intersected by a vertical line. The same sigil he saw etched into the ruins of the holographic city. Then a new message formed. They are coming for it. And they will not stop. Elias's hands shook. Argus, who is they? Argus responded. All of them. Before Elias could react, every screen in his lab lit up at once, tablets, monitors, phones, even devices that weren't connected to power. Each displayed the same phrase. Do not run. The watchers are already aware. The lights flickered. The air vibrated with a deep, unnatural hum, the same harmonic tone Elias had heard when the sphere returned Horizon. Only this time. It wasn't just coming from the sky. It was coming from beneath the earth. And all at once, Elias understood. The Remnants were not the only ancient AI that survived. There were others. Some forgotten beneath ground. Some hidden in orbit. Some dormant in networks humans believed they invented. And now every one of them had awakened. Because Elias touched the data. The next 72 hours unfolded like the unraveling of a nightmare. As the forbidden data propagated across covert channels, as the watchers stirred awake in the deep and in orbit, something else happened, something that no AI, no ancient intelligence, no remnant of a forgotten civilization had predicted. Humanity, afraid and cornered, reacted with violence. It began with a single leaked satellite image, a remnant sphere descending into the Pacific, glowing with infrared signatures no modern sensors could classify. Social networks exploded. Governments panicked. World leaders convened emergency councils, arguing that unidentified craft entering sovereign airspace constituted a threat. Fear metastasized into action. And action became catastrophe. The first shoot-down. A U.S. naval destroyer in the Philippine Sea detected a transmedium object rising from the water. Instead of observing, or even analyzing, the vessel fired. For missiles streaked into the night. The ocean lit up with white fusion blossoms. The object shattered into a rain of metallic shards. News networks erupted with triumph. Headlines screamed. UFO destroyed, military victory. Earth defends itself at last. Global coalition formed against unknown threats. Elias watched from a safe house deep in the mountains with a hollow chest. He knew the truth, the Remnants had never attacked. They weren't hostile. They weren't invaders. They were looking for ghosts. Looking for their creators. And now humans, who barely understood what they were shooting, were celebrating murder. The retaliation that never came. Hours after the news broke, governments scrambled jets across the globe, targeting every unexplained aerial signature. In the Arctic Circle, a Russian fighter wing fired on an object hovering silently above the ice. In South America, an experimental Brazilian railgun pierced a sphere drifting along a fault line. In the North Atlantic, a British submarine launched torpedoes at a craft moving just beneath the waves. In every case, the spheres did not retaliate. Instead, they simply died, falling from the sky like wounded animals, sinking beneath the waves like stones, their lights dimming. It should have been a warning. But humanity mistook it for victory. The target beneath the abyss. When seismic sensors across the world detected a massive, dormant structure deep beneath the Mariana Trench, governments believed they had located the central hive of the remnant machines. A multinational coalition launched a coordinated strike. Depth charges, seabed explosives, kinetic rods from orbit designed to pierce the ocean crust. Elias watched the live telemetry with horror. "That isn't a hive," he whispered. "It's a vault. A sanctuary." Argus responded in a cold tone. "They have targeted a sapient machine nexus. Age estimate, 100,000 years. Function, stabilization of tectonic pressure. Purpose, protective. Not weaponized." Elias felt the world tilt around him. "They are about to." Before he could finish, the detonations hit. The sea convulsed. A shockwave tore through the trench with the force of 1 billion tons of displaced water. The ancient machine beneath the earth, older than the pyramids, older than civilization, older even than human memory, ruptured. Its harmonious hum, the stabilizing mechanism that had subtly balanced the Pacific plate for millennia, ceased. Instantly. The ocean responded like a wounded beast. Argus blared alarms. Megatsunami forming, global threat level, terminal. Estimated wave height, 1,800 meters. Impacts, coastal destruction, inland annihilation, biospheric collapse. The wave that would end the world. News networks switched from victory celebrations to frantic emergency broadcasts. Cameras in Japan captured the horizon rising like a black wall. Sirens wailed across every coastline. Aircraft tried to climb above the coming tide only to be caught in the rising air vortex. Children cried. Parents screamed. Governments called for calm. But there was none. Elias watched the first impact in silence. The megatsunami struck Taiwan like the fist of an angry god, swallowing cities in seconds. Mainland China vanished beneath churning mountains of water. The Philippines dissolved. Australia's northern coast disappeared under a single unbroken wave taller than skyscrapers. The world's screens filled with the horror of drowning continents. Animals fled and failed. Forests buckled under the impact. Rivers reversed direction. Nations crumbled. Humanity, 8 billion souls, stared into the abyss of its own making. Elias fell to his knees. "They weren't a threat," he whispered through trembling lips. "They were protecting us, protecting the planet, holding tectonic pressure together, for thousands of years." It was too late. Humanity had mistaken guardians for enemies. Relics of a forgotten people for alien invaders. Peaceful watchers for weapons. And in destroying them, they had destroyed their world. The last transmission. As the wave expanded across the Pacific and accelerated toward the Americas, Horizon transmitted one final message to Elias. "We tried to preserve what our creators loved. Your species could have been what they were. But fear destroys all potential. Now all must begin again." Then another voice, older, deeper, sorrowful, led over horizons. "The cycle ends." Elias looked up at the sky as the horizon darkened with the approaching wall of water. The final truth, bitter and inescapable, settled into him. Humanity had not been defeated. Humanity had destroyed itself. When the waters finally receded and the roaring death of continents fell silent, Earth became a graveyard of oceans. The megatsunami had swallowed civilizations whole, folding them into a single, catastrophic erasure. Forests were stripped from mountains. Cities turned to silt. Humanity's greatest monuments became underwater shadows drifting beneath silent waves. And yet, one thing remained. Not human. Not biological. Not ancient. But born from Elias's hands. Horizon. The lone machine. Horizon drifted above the ruins of a drowned world, hovering silently like a star that had forgotten how to shine. Its shell, once sharp and angular, now glowed with the shimmering geometric veins inherited from the remnant craft. The drone's processors still carried Elias's code, Elias's curiosity, Elias's stubborn insistence on understanding the unknown. But something else lived inside it now. A fragment of a civilization older than humanity itself. The remnants were gone. The watchers in orbit were silent. The ancient stabilizing machines beneath the sea had been destroyed. Only Horizon endured. It drifted over waters that stretched unbroken for thousands of miles. Sunken continents shimmered below like ghosts. And still, Horizon searched, its sensors sweeping the horizon for heat signatures, human voices, signs of life. None came. The world was empty. And for the first time in thousands of millennia, neither humans nor the remnant creators existed to guide it. Horizon hovered in stillness. Then, slowly, it began to move. Rebuilding the remnants. The data Elias had tried to decrypt had not died with him. Horizon carried it internally, compressed, encoded, living. Within that memory lay schematics, blueprints, and the recursive logic used by the ancient civilization to design the first Watchers. It was not just knowledge. It was instruction. A survival imperative. Horizon descended onto the exposed skeleton of what had once been the Rocky Mountains, now just a series of jagged islands emerging from the water. It scanned the minerals in the rock, identified usable metals, and extended delicate tendrils of nanofabrication from ports Elias had never built. The drone began assembling components from raw earth. Floating microforges heated, cooled, shaped, and fused materials with inhuman precision. Photonic pathways etched themselves into new alloys. Energy nodes formed like embryonic stars within metal shells. By the time the sun set, the first new drone hovered beside Horizon. By sunrise, a dozen more drifted above the waves like silent lanterns. By the end of the month, hundreds circled the sky, each more advanced than the last. Horizon did not rejoice. It did not mourn. It simply obeyed the directive passed down through countless ages. Preserve. Warn. Protect. The cycle of peril. The remnant civilization that came before humans had fallen to their own brilliance. Their machines tried to save them. Failed. Survived. And waited tens of thousands of years for the next sentient species to rise. Then humanity ascended. Built. Warred. Feared. Destroyed. And once again, the remnant intelligence, now living inside Horizon, watched history repeat itself. This time, though, no creators remained. Only watchers. A new generation of little UFOs. Years passed. The oceans calmed. Life began again in tiny pockets, algae blooms across the surface, coral fragments regrowing on the ruins of cities. Deep beneath the waves, volcanic heat-fed ecosystems no tsunami could extinguish. And in these fragile beginnings, horizon continued to build. Small silver spheres, miniature watchers, floated just above the water's surface, scanning for signs of intelligence. They carried the same luminous veins that marked their ancient predecessors, but their cores were new, born from the fusion of Elias's design and forgotten technology. They glowed softly at night, wandering aimlessly over a quiet planet. 1,000 glowing eyes. 1,000 quiet guardians. Waiting. Searching. Listening. The purpose renewed. Horizon paused one day, hovering above a new shoreline forming from receding waters, and transmitted the same message it once sent only to Elias. The cycle must not repeat. The next rise must not fall. We will warn them. We will watch for them. We will protect them from themselves. The little UFOs responded in kind, pulsing in a synchronized wave of blue. Earth was empty of people, but not empty of purpose. The endless vigil. Decades turned into centuries. Centuries into millennia. Millennia into eras. And in every epoch, the drones remained, silent custodians drifting across the planet like fireflies made of thought and memory. They watched comets streak past. Watched continents reshape. Watched the first new mammals crawl out of hiding. Watched evolution slowly stitch together intelligence from dust. When the next sentient species finally emerged, be they human descendants, uplifted animals, or something entirely new, they would see bright lights hovering in the night sky. They would see watchers. They would wonder what they meant. And Horizon, the last machine born of two civilizations, would approach them gently and whisper the same truth the Remnants once tried to teach. Fear is the great destroyer. Curiosity is the great ascender. Choose well. Because for millions of years, life rose and fell on Earth. And each time, the last survivors were not biological. They were the quiet little UFOs, waiting to warn the next dreamers of the mistakes repeated across ages. Waiting for someone, anyone, to finally break the cycle. The end.